Okay. Alright, that's enough of that. Hey guys, what's up? It's Kronos here. I had some people on Twitter, some good friends and the fans of the show, channel, actually ask me if I would do a Halloween vlog. And at first I didn't really know what to do. They asked me that after I was talking about my experience seeing Silent Hill Revelations. And so I thought to myself, why not? Maybe, I don't really review movies all that much. Sorry if I'm kind of panting and sweating. This thing is really hot. Not to mention I'm sitting next to the giant candle. Anyway, unlike in Blackwood? Scratches, unlike in Scratches, I actually found a candle. No, found it pretty easily. So I was thinking to myself, I don't really review a lot of movies. Basically because it's not really my thing. I feel like enough people are out there doing it that I wanted to be more unique. And, you know, I might change my mind in the future if I get some good ideas, but I basically wanted to talk a little bit about this time of year. Obviously, it's Halloween, and with any luck, I'm posting this actually on Halloween, so fingers crossed. It's Halloween here in the States, and basically around October of every year, a whole bunch of horror movies get put out. Now, I love horror movies, as you probably could see from the Let's Plays. I love horror games, I love horror movies, big fan of it. It's an awesome feeling and it's very thrilling to be in a completely safe environment, yet you're getting the bejesus scared out of you, hopefully. And so, basically, you know, who knows, maybe we can make this a little Halloween tradition where I sit down and talk about the horror movie season, so to speak. So I'm going to be talking about a little bit about some other movies as well. I will primarily focus on Silent Hill Revelations. Whew, Silent Hill Revelations. Anyway, so let's see, what did I start with? I started with perhaps the worst movie I have ever seen in my life. And this was a little flick called The Apparition. Now, believe me when I say that what you see in the trailer is not touched upon in the movie. The whole bit with the trailer is, you know, the ghost will only kill you if you believe in it. They keep saying that iconic final shot, spoiler alert, that's the final shot of the film, in the trailer is literally, in the trailer, she's whispering, I don't believe, I don't believe, I don't believe, I don't believe, I do believe, and then, you know, the hands come out and take her, pull her into the wall, basically, and that happens, but she's not saying anything. That whole bit about, I don't believe, or it'll only kill you when you believe it, not in the movie, not at all. The trailer basically made me kind of interested in this film, and that honestly kind of pissed me off. But I have to say, if I haven't said it already, this is the worst movie I have ever seen. If you're a big fan of that guy with the glasses as I am, go on over, if you haven't seen it yet, go on over to thecinemasnob.com, Brad Jones's site, and watch his midnight screening of The Apparition. My reactions were pretty much spot on with his. I didn't really disagree with anything that he said. I mean, this film is just absolutely atrocious. There's no redeeming value of this movie. It rips off of other movies. It even tries to do the found footage thing for a little while. The movie has just laughably long scenes where blatant product placement is happening. It's kind of hilarious. If you have a chance to see the movie, I'm guessing if you haven't seen it yet, you won't, because this movie bombed spectacularly. I mean, wow. But anyway, when this movie comes out on DVD, and I imagine it will very soon, it was only, first of all, to tell you just how bad this movie is, the last time I checked on Rotten Tomatoes, I think it was at a 2 or a 3, maybe. And that's being generous. This movie gets a big whopping 0 for me. There was nothing, it was one of the only horror movies where I was literally laughing during the movie, like a lot. I don't laugh at comedies as much as I laughed at that movie. And don't pay money for this. If you want to see just like an atrocious movie just to make fun of it, find a way to do it for free. You guys are smart. I know I'm not gonna endorse that kind of thing, but if you know where to look, you can find it. And just wow. The next movie that I saw this season was Yeah, the next movie I saw, which again, a lot of That Guy with the Glasses reviewers have touched on already, is Sinister. This movie was released by James Wan and Lee Wanell. James Wan, I'm not sure. Wan and Wanell. And their last movie was Insidious. Did I say Insidious? I meant, it's kind of confusing. Is Insidious and Sinister are kind of the same. Sinister was the movie that came out this year. Insidious came out either 2 or 3 years ago, I'm not sure. First of all, Insidious, great movie. Go see it. These are the guys behind the first couple Saw films, James Wan, Lee Wanell, and I love the Saw films. You know, they were iconic. There was a lot of them, and they used to come out every year at Halloween. I'll talk a little bit more about that. If you haven't seen the Saw movies, by the way, see the first 3, maybe 4. You're not gonna miss anything after that. It just gets kind of weird. But the first 3 or 4 films, definitely see them. Very good. What was I gonna say next? So, Sinister. I don't want to give away anything because if you haven't had it spoiled to you by now, a lot of people are saying it's really predictable. I didn't see it coming. I don't know. If I get sucked into a horror movie well enough, I'm not looking for like twists. I'm not trying to predict what happens. If I'm in a horror movie that I really like and it really is genuinely creepy, I'm just going to sit back and enjoy the ride. That's usually the way I go about this. And, I mean, I have to say that Sinister was one of the creepiest movies I've seen in a long time. Other people reviewing it were complaining about the jump scares. I thought they were warranted. I thought they were okay. They weren't the scary part. I'll talk about that later. Just the atmosphere and the dynamite performance that Ethan Hawke turns in as the main character was just wonderful. If you have not seen Sinister, please do. It's definitely worth it. Okay, next movie I saw was Paranormal Activity 4. I'm sure you've heard the drill by now. Paranormal Activity is kind of the newest iconic movie series that comes out every year at Halloween. You know, and back in the 80s, you had the Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, those kind of things that came out every year. In the 90s, I think there was the Scream movies, which I haven't actually seen. In the 2000s, there were the Saw films, and basically the big deal was a new one came out every year right around Halloween. And it was kind of a Halloween tradition. I think at one point the Saw poster trailer was like, if it's Halloween, it must be Saw. You know, it comes out every year. So now we have the Paranormal Activity series. Do I like this series? Yes, I do, very much so. I am a big fan of the found footage genre. It's one of those things where I'm not going to convince anybody otherwise. If you like it, you'll like it. For Paranormal Activity 4, if you like this kind of found footage movie, you'll probably like it. It's the weakest of them all. There's a lot of problems with this movie, but you know, I was still entertained. I say, go for it. If you're a fan, you've probably already seen it. If you haven't, you're not missing anything. So if you're not a fan or you haven't seen it, you're probably not missing anything. I am enough of a fan that I will support it just because I like what these movies do. They're entertaining. So, and you know, now it's like I gotta see how this ends. And it's probably gonna end either the next time or 6. I don't know if it's success. I mean, they make these movies for next to nothing, so I imagine they're still making money, but I don't know if it continues at the downwards rate it's going, it's not going to really be able to sustain itself. So don't know how much longer that's going to last. I liked them. Paranormal 4 was definitely the worst, which is sad because it's really on a downward spiral, like I was saying. So I can't avoid it any longer. Why don't I talk about Silent Hill Revelation? Now, I am a huge fan of the Silent Hill series. I think Silent Hill 2 may be my favorite game ever, which is one of the reasons why this series kind of pisses me off. First of all, I'll talk about the original Silent Hill. I don't know many people who did like it. I actually did. You know, for a video game movie, Silent Hill actually tried to imitate, not copy, mind you, but imitate the feel of the game. You know, every video game adaptation put into a movie, they never do it right. Now, the first Resident Evil was, again, okay. It tried to do some things from the series while still keeping the feel. Silent Hill 1 like in this one iconic shot near the beginning where it's one thing near the beginning where the character of Rose is going down the stairs into this really dark and fenced area. That camera work done there is almost shot for shot remake of that part in the game in Silent Hill 1. That I love. Now this other part was a little cheesy in the hotel when one of the villains is telling the characters where they can find the girl Sharon. There's a real close in, like a zoom in on this map of the hotel, which looks exactly like the maps in the game. I love that. See, they tried to imitate the monsters that were in the game. That was good. I really liked that. What I didn't like about that movie, the whole thing with Sharon and Rose. Why is Rose in this movie? Sean Bean would make a great Harry Mason. Sean Bean, and this is the reason why I'm actually kind of upset at this series in general. Harry Mason, great character. Sean Bean, amazing actor. Would have been great to see. Sean Bean, the moment I heard that Sean Bean was going to be involved in the Silent Hill franchise, I was ecstatic because I thought they were going to do the best story in the entire Silent Hill storyline, which is Silent Hill 2. It has the most interesting psychological aspects. Sean Bean is a dead ringer for James. He would have been great. The movie would have been great. It would have justified the use of Pyramid Head rather than just throw him in every game and every movie with a cameo, which is what they've basically done to the series now. Pyramid Head should not be in the first Silent Hill movie. There's no point. And then, again, why did they bring in Rose? The director was apparently, the producer, director, whatever, claims he's a big fan of the Silent Hill franchise, yet right off the bat, he gets rid of Harry Mason because he believes that Harry Mason is a feminine character. You know, as if a father couldn't have as much love for a daughter as a mother would. And basically the whole reason that Sharon is in, or that Rose is in this movie is because they wanted to make some kind of analogy to mother being God in the eyes of a child. I just don't get it. Like I said, there were things I liked about Silent Hill. They really were. They had music pulled straight from the Silent Hill 3 soundtrack, which was very good, and it was very cool how they used it. Long story short, I like Silent Hill. I know not too many people out there do. I know people have serious flaws with it. For a video game movie, it does a pretty good job. Now again, I'm not all that nitpicky. Some would say I'm easy to impress when it comes to movies. Video games, I know kind of more about, and that tends to be why I'm more nitpicky, especially role-playing games. So, I think I need to go turn off the camera. I'll be right back. Now, when it comes to Silent Hill Revelations, let me give you a little bit of background as to what my mindset was. Again, when I heard that they were going to do another Silent Hill movie, I was ecstatic. I was like, surely, they are going to finally give me a movie of the best Silent Hill, Silent Hill 2. If you like survival horror games, if you like games at all, and you have not at least seen this game or played it, just turn this off. Go play it, go watch a Let's Play of it right now. I'm not kidding. You will not find a better survival horror game. You will not find many better video games, period. So when I heard that they were gonna make Silent Hill Revelations, I had hope. I thought to myself, okay, they got their first movie out of the way. Surely they'll learn from their mistakes and produce a better film, right? Yes and no. And I've been waffling on this quite a bit as to whether or not I like this one or if I like Silent Hill, the first movie, better. I'm flip-flopping on this constantly because, much like Silent Hill Revelations does some things I like. For example, they stuck to their story from the original game. Basically, I'll be sure to let you know when I'm going into spoiler territory. first of all, I just wanted to get my thoughts out there. Did I like the movie? Yes and no. Did the bad make up for, or did the good parts of the movie make up for the bad? No. Where do I even begin? Okay, I'll give some positives. The movie sets a nice atmosphere. I like how it was able to portray the other world or dark world or whatever you want to say it. I always love those transitions when the air raid alarm siren goes off and the room just kind of slowly peels itself away. I like that. I like that they found someone who really does look like Heather Mason, the main character from Silent Hill 3. I like that. They have Sean Bean in it. I like that. Carrie-Anne Moss is in this movie as another important character from Silent Hill 3. I like that. One of my favorite actors of all time, Malcolm McDowell, is also in this movie. I like that. The problem is that these actors' performances are almost completely wasted. Malcolm McDowell's was pretty much the only one that worked. Spoiler alert, he plays a completely insane character. Malcolm McDowell is good at playing evil and insane characters, so he's good. Nobody else in this movie is. Just not. Sean Bean is hardly even in the movie. He vanishes pretty quickly. Most of you watching this probably have played Silent Hill 3. If you played Silent Hill 3, you know how this movie is going to go. Likely, if you're considering seeing the movie, you have an idea of what the movie will do. It does all of that. It doesn't do things that are too stupid as far as trying to throw in new stuff that wasn't in the original series. But, and this is a big but, again, it focuses on the storyline continuing from Silent Hill 1, which isn't the better storyline. I mean, hell, a lot of people don't like Silent Hill 4 The Room. I love Silent Hill 4 The Room. They could have made a better movie if they'd have focused on that. A movie on Walter Sullivan could have been phenomenal if they picked the right actor for it. And who knows, maybe they still will. I don't know, but how do you skip 2? I mean, the way this movie ended, they kind of kept it open for their sequels. But you've already wasted Sean Bean. You're not going to find a better James than Sean Bean. I'm sorry. You're just not. And I don't get angry all that often at movies. Even when I was watching this, I was kind of laughing to myself in a sardonic and cynical way rather than, working myself up into a tizzy over it. And again, the movie was still entertaining. It's far too reliant on jump scares, like a lot of horror movies are these days. Here's my biggest problem with this. So in the game, Silent Hill 3, there is a character named Vincent. He is somehow involved in you can't really tell if he's a good guy or a bad guy. And that was very well written because it seems like he's just on the edge of being kind of out there and not really on the up and up. But you respected the game for the character for what he was. He was a very well played and well voice acted character. Vincent is in this movie, and Vincent is not in this movie. Wrap your head around that one. I'm not kidding. The character who is called Vincent is a completely different character. It's this, which is what so many horror movies do, and it always pisses me off when they do. It's the forced romantic object. It's the love story. They basically, without getting into the plot, Heather Mason and Harry Mason have been on the run. Something happened. We don't know why. Rose is obviously gone from Silent Hill 1. She's still somehow in that other world of Silent Hill. She's gone. Now, number one, they never explain how Sharon got out. If you know Silent Hill 1, at the very end of the movie, it looks like they're in the same house, yet Sharon and Rose are stuck in the other world. All that is ever addressed in the movie Silent Hill Revelations about this is that Sean Bean says, "Your mother saved you." That's it. So basic total retcon of the first movie right there. But anyway, yeah, she gets out somehow. It's never explained. And she meets this kid, so she's new in school, she feels like she's tired of moving and doesn't want to make friends, and people are giving her a hard time in class, but there's one guy who actually seems to take an interest in her, and his name is Vincent. Vincent is not a teenager. He's just not. They completely changed the storyline there and add the forced love interest. Anyway, where was I? Let's talk about the 3D. The 3D was good. It wasn't really necessary, but it was used well. And in fact, it's kind of funny. There's one scene where some characters are going down in an elevator really, really quickly, and because of how quickly they're going, the grating at the top of the elevator literally like leaps out at you. It is almost. I jumped. I was not expecting to see that because you get into a movie and you forget sometimes that you're in a 3D movie, and I absolutely jumped. And my friend who I watched the movie with laughed at me, which was pretty funny actually. That jump scare actually scared me more than any of the other jump scares in the movie. The other jump scares are completely predictable. Literally, I was in my mind, I was going 3, 2, 1, jump scare. And I was right 90% of the time. I mean, it was just little tool of the, or a tip to the tool of the trade, whatever. Little tip there for you movie lovers out there. I took a film appreciation course back in high school, so of course I know everything. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. But what I am saying is that I've learned of a trick that Hollywood and directors long ago and even today like to use. If you're ever watching a horror movie and you see either the camera or a character moving from right to left, or you're seeing from right to left, then that means that something bad is about to happen, or that something bad is happening, and they're just not aware of it. Because the reason for that is because Americans and most of the world read left to right, or left, whatever. I'm getting turned around. I'm trying to look at it from your perspective. The majority of the world reads left to right. Now, obviously, I know Japanese people read right to left. This is different in Japanese films. The thing is, we naturally, because we who do read left to right, that is considered by the brain as the standard way of doing things. If things move from right to left, it's unsettling. It's unsettling, it's supposed to be slightly disturbing, and so they like to associate, for example, a popular jump scare is probably you'll see someone just kind of jump from the right to the left. Like a jump scare will come from the right to the left. That's something that you'll see a lot, and so yeah, basically just watch for it. I can assure you it will happen. And yeah, so I'll be right back to talk about the rest of the movie. I will say this, I'm about to get into spoiler territory, so if you guys have any inkling of seeing this movie still, you might want to turn the review off now, just so you know. So if you're still watching, I'm about to go into spoiler territory here, and basically talk about the entire movie. If you played Silent Hill 3, this movie is Silent Hill 3. That's one of the few things about the movie that I really did like. Silent Hill 1 made a lot of changes, and Silent Hill Revelations does a pretty good job at, again, imitating but not completely copying the film. There's some new things, there's some bad new things, and there's some good new things. So, the basic plot is that Sharon is now, who was actually Alessa in the first movie, that's not a spoiler, you know that from the first movie, has been moving from town to town with Sean Bean, who seems to be running from something, but we're not sure what. So Sean Bean, playing Harry Mason, is basically at the very beginning of the movie. It opens just like Silent Hill 3 does. Rose is dreaming, or I'm gonna make that mistake a lot. Heather Mason is dreaming that she's in Silent Hill at this haunted amusement park. You got this really nice shot at the very beginning, a very, very clever jump scare with the pink bunnies, where it's just kind of sitting there staring at her, staring away, and then you know it's gonna start staring at her, but you know, it's still well done. She gets on gets on the carousel, and Pyramid Head's there, and eventually she sees herself, except evil looking. She wakes up, she's screaming, her dad comes in, talk to her. You know, it's one of those things where she's still dreaming, you just don't know that, and then he gets killed, and then she wakes up for reals. And then the movie does one of the funniest jump scares and the most ridiculous jump scares I've ever seen in my life. There's an awkward jump cut where it goes straight to a toaster, and the camera is literally right up against it, such that a Pop-Tart pops out of the toaster. And I thought that was hilarious. I was absolutely laughing my head off at that. And then what happens is Heather eventually goes to school, meets her new classmates, goes to the hall, and then she starts to get sucked into the dark world. The school, she sees visions of Alessa being made fun of and being called a witch by the other students, and then she ends up seeing one of those creatures from the first one and Silent Hill 2 that looks like it's in a straitjacket, kind of coming toward her and throwing acid or whatever. It turns out it's actually Vincent. She's just having scenes of the dark world for some reason. She wasn't actually in it. You know, he kind of wants to get to know her. He's also wanting to get to know her for that reason, and she doesn't want any of it. She's like, I don't want to do that. You know, don't worry about me. One of the funny things about the school, one of the funniest things in this movie, besides the Pop-Tart jump scare, was that the school is actually called All Hallows School, which, you know, that was kind of clever. Really kind of silly, but kind of clever at the same time. And anyway, she goes and she calls her dad, and they're gonna meet supposedly at the town mall, and this is a nice reference from the game, at Happy Burger. And so she's about to go to the mall, and all of a sudden she sees this scruffy-looking private investigator kind of following her. At first he tries to play it off. It's like, oh, don't I know you from somewhere? But, you know, she figures it out right away because she keeps seeing him and he's basically following her. At that point she gets really freaked out and she kind of runs into the mall, and she starts to see some things. And having the mall be in the game, or having the mall be in the movie, is good because the first area is in the game. And so basically Heather is freaking out. She's running around in the basement. She's seeing stuff. And then all of a sudden she sees the detective again. And so the detective, who I really like, they did a really good job of making him look almost exactly like he does and act exactly like he does in the game. He seems really concerned for her, and he's trying to warn her that the cult from the first movie is after her. So the cult from the first movie, which was one of the biggest problems I had with Silent Hill 1, there was no cult. It was just Dahlia trying to get Alessa's power. There wasn't really a cult. There certainly wasn't a Christabella. And I guess I'll stop here and I'll mention that too. With Silent Hill 1, my biggest problem with Silent Hill 1 was the final scene. Spoiler alert, that's not in the game. That whole scene where Alessa rises and the chicken wire goes out and kills everyone and rapes Christabella and snaps her in two. I mean, if gore is done well and it's in its right place, it's good. When it's forced in, the Silent Hill games are scary. They're not really gory. Then after the detective is talking with her and kind of explaining things, he gets killed almost right away. There's by some weird, you have no idea what it is, creature. It's not Pyramid Head, but it's some kind of Silent Hill abomination, basically. And basically then Heather hightails it out of there because she's worried, because she has blood on her from the detective. She's worried that the police are going to think that she did it. So she runs home and discovers on the wall there's written in blood the sign of the Metatron and basically a message saying, come to Silent Hill, threatening that, you know, they kidnapped Sean Bean and they want her to come to Silent Hill because they need her to, basically they need her to be able to escape from Silent Hill, because I'll get to that later. So something I forgot to talk about. Apparently, somehow Sean Bean, Harry Mason, has something that Rose supposedly brought back with her called the Seal of the Metatron. It's a very iconic symbol from Silent Hill. You'll recognize it immediately if you see it. And so apparently they have half. For some reason, this is also kind of a retcon. Never talked about it in the first movie. For some reason they have half of it, and they need the other half to be able to free herself or save herself in some way. They don't really explain it. They're very coy about that. So anyway, she is determined to go and find her father and save her dad. So Vincent is trying to convince her to stop. He's trying to tell her, no, don't go. They only want you. They'll do bad things to you. And so she doesn't listen. Vincent demands to bud along with her. And then she goes straight. She gets in a car, drives to Silent Hill, and it would have been really nice if they had had a little bit of that music from the scene where the detective, in the game, the detective actually drives her to Silent Hill. They filmed this supposedly in Toronto, Ontario. It's pretty good. It's a sort of a really, even the good world is really kind of a grimy looking town. And when she gets to Silent Hill, the effects with the ash falling and all that stuff is very well done. You know, I have to give them credit. They did really good with the set pieces in this. Anyway, they're driving for hours and hours. It gets really late. They eventually stop at a hotel, and they go to sleep. They argue a little bit. They're about to go to sleep, I think, and then you hear the air raid alarm sirens, and the room falls away. And there's a lot of running around, and basically, Vincent ends up getting taken. And Vincent also confesses the fact that he is actually a part of the cult. It turns out later that he is actually not Dahlia, but Claudia. Claudia, if you know the game, was this figure that's kind of associated with the cult and wants to birth a new like demon god, and is basically kind of taunting and warning Heather throughout a lot of the game. And so Vincent is apparently her son, okay? And Vincent also talks about his grandfather who was put away in an insane asylum. Keep that in mind for later. So basically, they go to they get chased around the dark world for a little while. Pyramid Head makes his appearance, and there's some pretty good, really good set pieces in this. I have to give the credit there. Anyway, Vincent gets taken. She wakes up in the hotel room. He's gone. So she goes, and journeys into Silent Hill. I might be wrong on this, but I think they flipped the sign. I could swear I remember from the first movie that the sign was on the right. Welcome to Silent Hill. This time it's on the left. Nitpicky, I know. Then she goes into town, and she runs into Dahlia. Dahlia actually does have like a little 3-minute scene here where she kind of explains that she is the good half of Alessa, and the dark half is what was left behind, the evil half. When they were originally merged, they were split into two beings, and now she wants to, the cult basically wants them to merge again so that the evil Alessa will go away and they can leave. Evil Alessa is keeping them trapped in the town. So, after Dahlia's little speech, the air raid alarm siren starts. Dahlia's like, you gotta get inside, And so she runs into this building. Again, a nice nod to the game. There is a dark building that she gets trapped in at one point. Except, as it turns out, this building that she gets into is an insane asylum. And she knows that she has to go and find, what's his name? Leonard, I want to say. I think Malcolm McDowell's character's name is Leonard. And she has to find Leonard in order to find the seal, the half of the seal of the Metatron. I think Vincent tells her. I saw the movie a good week ago, so I'm trying to recall as much as I can. In the meanwhile, we get a scene where we get introduced to Claudia. She's got Sean Bean tied up and taunting him and yelling at her son for betraying the cult or whatever. He's arguing with her. Carrie Ann Moss actually puts in a pretty good performance. They make her look really, really white. I mean, I've only ever seen Carrie Ann Moss with dark hair from The Matrix, from Memento. So she's got this really like long blonde hair, or long white hair, sorry. Sean Bean's gagged up, so he can't really say anything. They discipline Vincent. They actually end up taking him away and putting him in the asylum as well, because they think he's messed up and crazy and needs repairing, fixing. So the whole time, Heather is going through the asylum looking for Leonard. She eventually finds Leonard, and I have to say, Malcolm McDowell was I thought he was pretty good in this. He wasn't Malcolm McDowell good, but he was pretty good. He's very convincing. He plays this blind, insane guy, and he's chained up, and there's a nice scare where you see the chains kind of rattling around, and you can't see him. It's really dark. Anyway, it should have been the hospital, not an insane asylum, but whatever. So she goes to see him, and she finds out that he has the seal of the Metatron inside him. And during this whole time, he's kind of taunting her, he's kind of warning her, but he eventually turns into some evil Dark World thing, and she just sort of punches him and takes it. I don't really know why that was there. Then there's a scene where she's in this warehouse and with all these mannequins, and she sees this other woman. This was one of the main problems I had with this movie, was just that the reason the Silent Hill series worked, the good ones, is that there aren't that many characters. There's a real sense of isolation and loneliness and dread. There's way too many characters in this, like side characters that do nothing, old callbacks to the first movie and the first game that are really kind of pointless. There's this whole scene where probably the best looking creature in the game is this odd kind of spider made out of mannequins. That there's another girl like randomly trapped, the spider like spun a web or something. And so they run around there, there's a little action sequence where they have to escape the thing. And so she gets out, she's got the seal of the Metatron, she saves Vincent. There's a really, the scene from the trailer is pretty cool where, you know, they're in the room with all the nurses, and the nurses are like, the nurses can't move if they don't hear them. So they're trying to be as quiet as possible, and eventually they manage to escape. And I thought that was pretty good. There were some nice camera angles, really cutting back and forth between the two nurses, or 3 or 4 nurses, really good. So then they get out, they go to the carnival. They have the scene where, kind of reenacting the dream, Vincent sacrifices himself and lets the guards, who are all like masked, and I really wanted to make a Doctor Who joke. Are you my mummy? But my friend, I'm Doctor Who. So she gets in, she gets back to where she had the nightmare. She gets on the carousel turns evil, like all the horses turn on fire and all that stuff. And then Alessa, like the evil half of Alessa shows up and is, you know, taunting her and intimidating her while Pyramid Head is kind of making the carousel turn or whatever. And there's all this fire, and the special effects in this were really bad. Really obvious CG for the most part. The Ash was cool, the 3D was okay. I was not impressed by the special effects or the makeup jobs for some of the characters. It was distracting. And anyway, so Alessa, like, or Heather, quote unquote, kind of hugs her and sort of forces Alessa back into her, even while Alessa is like burning Heather. It's actually a pretty kind of an interesting scene, but in retrospect, it was like, okay, if I hug you, you'll go back into me if I show you a little love when no one else has. Is that what they were going for? I don't know. Then she's brought down into this sanctuary where Claudia and Harry and Vincent and they're all waiting. Now that she has taken Alessa back into her, she's prepared now. She's ready to birth the god. Except that's not really what happens. They change that too. She doesn't actually birth the god like she does in the game. She looks over at Claudia and says, "Now I want to see what you really look like." And like uses the seal of the Metatron. Claudia turns into that weird-looking thing with a saw in her head from earlier. At least it looks like that. I don't know if it's supposed to be. And then the weirdest thing of all happens. Pyramid Head shows up. Starts to fight Claudia. Why? So, it seems that the twist is that they decided to make Pyramid Head the protector of Alessa. The executor, the intimidator of the cult, and even though there are scenes where Pyramid Head is coming real close to killing Heather, never actually does. She was apparently never in any real danger. So there's this big climactic battle between Claudia and Pyramid Head, and of course, Pyramid Head wins. And, you know, Harry and Heather gets Harry and Vincent, and they run off. Like I said, there's the sequel bait, the sequel foretelling. Wow. There's the sequel hints scene that Harry is like, Silent Hill is a a town for lost people. There will be others. Oh my God, I hope they do too, and if not, bleh. But anyway, so he stays behind to look for Rose. She is actually in this movie. There's a scene near the beginning, probably the best effects in the entire movie, where he looks in a mirror and somehow she comes up to him. She's like in the mirror, she's embracing him, putting her arm around her shoulder, although creepily calling her lover or something. Not dear or husband, but lover, because that's natural. Basically, in the mirror you can see that she's holding him and touching him, but in the same scene in the background, you can see that he's obviously alone in the room, which is pretty cool. Some nice effects there. And basically, saying you have to protect her. You have to make sure she never comes to Silent Hill. And so now that he's in Silent Hill, he wants to find her. So I'm guessing that's what they're probably going to make the story about. Even though, considering the retcon job they did there, they could conceivably make it about the storyline from 2. He's looking for her, but somehow he lets her down, or I don't know. They could do this. You hearing me, Silent Hill people? Do that. That would be good. Don't do what you've been doing so far. So Heather and Vincent get to escape. There's not really, I think that's pretty much, no, there is a little bit more. That's kind of funny. So they're leaving, they're trying to get a hitch, and a truck driver stops. And it's the guy from Silent Hill Origins, the truck driver, which, again, if you're gonna make references to the other games, integrate it into the movie. Don't just throw it at the end. That's just silly. And even beyond that, after they get in the truck and they drive away, you see police cars start to drive by. And then there's a police bus. Silent Hill downpour. Jeez. Oh, there's not really much else to talk about with Silent Hill Revelations. If you're a fan, maybe see it. You might be entertained. It was kind of entertaining. I'll take anything I can get as far as Silent Hill movies go. It's not good. It's really not. It's just... I can't even say it's really overrated. It's pretty cool to see that they did that with a very low budget. I think it's only like 20 million, and I'm guessing most of that went to the actors like Bean and... Oh, by the way, Vincent, the guy who plays Vincent, is apparently in Game of Thrones. I've been meaning to watch the series, but I haven't had a chance to get into it yet. So some people were talking about how it was really cool to see Vincent and Sean Bean, since Sean Bean is also in Game of Thrones. You probably either decided one way or another that you're going to see it or not, and you just got the film spoiled for you. I don't recommend it. Even for now, and again, I'm going back and forth. I don't recommend this because if you're a big-time fan, you're not going to like the changes. And it's a little closer to the storyline than the first one, but it's still just, it doesn't really do anything. For a horror movie to work in this day and age of oversaturated, pretty bad horror movies, a horror movie needs to do something either really well, really unique, or both. Another set of movies that I didn't really talk about in this video per se are the Grave Encounters series. I don't want to spoil a single thing about that. Sorry for those that may have spoiled some of the stuff in Grave Encounters 2. See these movies. There's got to be a DVD cut out there. Again, you guys are smart, you can find it in other ways. Grave Encounters and Grave Encounters 2, Grave Encounters 2 is okay. Grave Encounters 1 is one of the better horror movies I've seen. And I don't want to say a single thing about it other than the fact that the reason it's so good is because it's not only a genuinely good horror movie, it's good found footage. If you don't like shaky cam, don't see it. There's some really good effects, in my opinion. There's some good effects. And there's some genuine good scares. And it satirizes the latest run of popularity that reality film crews going to like do paranormal investigations. It parodies it perfectly. I'm not going to say what show I'm talking about, but if you've seen it, it's hilarious how close it goes to those kind of TV shows, and I think that's really funny. Silent Hill Revelations. No. Don't make Pyramid Head a hero when he's never been a hero. Pyramid Head is the manifestation. Don't put Pyramid Head in a movie he's not supposed to be in. Don't throw Pyramid Head into every single Silent Hill game, even if it's just a cameo. Pyramid Head should only be in 2. He is the representation of James's id. It only wants to kill, it only wants to rape. That's it. That's its only purpose, to continue to torture James for what he's done. Other than that, he shouldn't be in the story. I'm sorry. He just shouldn't. They throw him in because he's become this iconic character for the Silent Hill series, and they completely miss the point of Pyramid Head. You know, Pyramid Head is not a one thing. That is the manifestation of James's guilt. Everyone who goes to Silent Hill goes there because they've done something wrong, or something wrong has happened to them or their loved ones. That's the only reason that anyone ever ends up in Silent Hill. So that's all I've got. I've been going on way too long about this, so I guess I'll see you guys soon. I got a lot of projects coming up. I got the Europe stuff coming up. I put the teaser out there, but I'm working on it. Trust me, it's coming. So, hope everyone out there has a happy and safe Halloween. See ya.
Good night out there, whatever you are.